I'm not sure if people understand how problematic this actually is. Some of you may be aware of this, but for anyone who wasn't, back on June 3rd, BDS Boston posted a tweet that said, "From our friends at the Mapping Project, their map and articles illustrate how local support for the colonization of Palestine is structurally tied to policing, evictions, and privatization locally, and to U.S. imperialist projects worldwide. Check it out," with the link to mapliberation.org with 4 images attached, 3 maps, and 1 network graph analysis. Having studied information science in college and being somewhat of a data expert myself, I have to say that the map is pretty busy. There's a lot of information that's been crammed into this one map, so we're going to take a look at the ADL's explanation of what exactly the map is. The map's lines extend outwards to any group, organization, educational institution, or government official those communal organizations may have interacted with in an attempt to expose and isolate those who they assert are responsible for the colonization of Palestine. In all, approximately 400 organizations are named. This BDS Boston endorsed project includes a disturbing and anti-Semitic call to dismantle and disrupt most of Boston's Jewish community, and concludes with a thinly veiled threat that every entity has an address, every network can be disrupted. So to give a little context in terms of when this was posted, June 3rd was a Friday, Erev Shabbat, or the Sabbath Eve. The holiday of Shavuot was starting that weekend as well, and a lot of religious Jews in the area were going to be turning off their electronics and not have any access to the internet or to news unless it was from, say, a newspaper. And this was a major security concern for a lot of Jews in the area because they didn't necessarily have time to call up their local police and organize a whole security detail for their communities that they felt had to be on high alert. The JCRC of Boston, or the Jewish Community Relations Council, posted a statement on their website condemning the map. The statement reads, "Virtually every Jewish organization in the Commonwealth is listed in this map along with the relations of each to civic, governmental, university, and other community organizations. Whether those relationships were cultivated by the Jewish institution or the community organization, the underlying messages are clear. Jews are responsible for the ills of our community, and if you maintain your relationship with Jewish organizations, you will share in that responsibility. It is a list of names and organizations to be shunned, isolated, and disenfranchised, and it draws on age-old anti-Semitic tropes that are all too clear to our community. Jewish wealth, control, and conspiracies. But we will not be intimidated, and we will not be silent. As a Jewish community, and one that has made allyship and outreach the cornerstones of our work, we condemn this demonization of the Boston Jewish community and attack on its relationship with others. This is no thinly veiled attempt to target the Jewish community. It is an explicit one that is keeping lists and naming names." A number of U.S. politicians spoke out against the map as well. Notably, Massachusetts Senators Elizabeth Warren and Ed Markey released a joint statement that said, "At this moment of rising anti-Semitism, racist attacks, and political violence, this mapping of the Jewish community is dangerous and irresponsible. We strongly condemn anti-Semitism and will continue working for the safety of all vulnerable people at home and abroad." Republican New York Congressman Lee Zeldin also denounced the map, calling the Mapping Project an anti-Semitic and dangerous attack on the rights and freedoms of American Jews, and saying it would inflame anti-Semitic hate and violence locally and abroad. In an interview with Jewish Insider, Representative Jake Auchincloss said, "This is just chilling to me. It is tapping into millennia-old anti-Semitic tropes about nefarious Jewish wealth, control, conspiracy, media connections, and political string-pulling. To name names and keep lists, which has a very sinister history in Judaism in terms of how we are targeted, is very irresponsible. They need to take this down and apologize." Despite these and many other calls for BDS Boston and the Mapping Project to take down the map, they still haven't done so. Not even the international BDS movement could get them to take it down. On June 22nd, journalist Aaron Bandler tweeted, "I've obtained a letter that @BDS movement sent to @BDS Boston telling them to take down the Mapping Project from their social media or else remove the BDS acronym from your name. The association of the BDS name with such groups and activities hurts our entire movement." So now we're going to take a closer look at some of the key points in this letter. Dear organizers at BDS Boston, we have tried to get in touch with you for a meeting, but were unable to reach you and feel this is an urgent matter. We are writing to express our deep concerns about BDS Boston's continued promotion of a project, the Mapping Project, which contains content and messaging that conflict with the guidelines of the global Palestinian-led BDS movement. The project unstrategically targets and provides names and physical addresses of institutions and individuals, and promotes messages that include phrases such as resistance in all its forms. The BDS movement is anchored in international law, which gives people suffering under foreign military occupation the right to resist it by all means, including armed resistance, so long as resistance itself complies with international law. This is a position that we have consistently upheld. All groups affiliated to the movement must conform to its affiliation guidelines and its inclusive, anti-racist principles set by the Palestinian BDS National Committee, the largest coalition in Palestinian society that leads the global BDS movement. By having BDS in your group's name and yet promoting messages which indirectly advocates for armed resistance and associating with groups that do, you have violated a key guideline of our movement. Specifically, the BDS guidelines on affiliation to the movement clearly state, any group that propagates or tolerates forms of expression or activities that conflict with the movement's principles of anti-racism and non-violence, or undermines the Palestinians' rights stated in the BDS call, cannot be part of the BDS movement and will be considered outside the BDS movement and will be asked to no longer use the BDS acronym or claim any affiliation to the movement. The association of the BDS name with such groups and activities hurts our movement and presents a substantial threat to our collective and individual safety. We sincerely appreciate the inspiring support for Palestinian rights in Boston and the role that your group has played in this respect over the years. But given the potential gravity of your violation of the movement's guidelines, and following our standard procedure in dealing with such security threats to the BDS movement at large, we ask that you remove all forms of promotion of the Mapping Project from all BDS Boston media channels, issue a statement similar to the statement issued by Massachusetts Peace Action condemning smears and repressive attacks on the project, but also disassociating BDS Boston from this project in an unambiguous way. Refrain from promoting any groups, including on your social media or website, that include messaging that conflicts with the BDS movement guidelines, including advocacy of armed resistance. Those who wish to express this sentiment can do so outside the BDS movement. Refrain from organizing any event with groups whose advocacy conflicts with the BDS movement guidelines. If you choose not to take these actions, we shall be compelled to ask that you remove the BDS acronym from your name, as your activities will be outside the mandate of the BDS movement. We hope you shall heed our wishes in this respect. When BDS says you've gone too far, you've gone too far. Obviously, BDS isn't calling out the anti-Semitism or the potential harm to the Jewish community in Boston in this letter. That's not their point. The point is that it could negatively affect BDS worldwide, and they don't want that. Did BDS Boston actually follow up with what they were supposed to do according to the letter? Let's find out. Spoiler alert, I already know the answer. You're gonna find out. So BDS tweeted a graphic with the caption, "We've received a lot of messages about the mapping project, so we want to issue a point of clarification for our followers." And the graphic says the following. BDS Boston continues to feel that the mapping project is an important source of information and a useful organizing tool. The mapping project is its own collective that works autonomously from BDS Boston and can be contacted at the email address on their website. Doesn't sound like denouncement to me. Does it sound like it to you? They checked one thing off the list from the letter by saying that the mapping project is run autonomously without BDS Boston. But let's see, if you were to go to the BDS Boston Twitter, their pinned tweet is still the mapping project. Duh. So you'd think that would be the end of the story. But no, there's more. The very same day, a federal appeals court upheld an Arkansas law requiring state contractors to pledge not to boycott Israel. The 8th Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals found the restriction to not be an unconstitutional violation of free speech. The law only prohibits economic decisions that discriminate against Israel. Judge Jonathan Kobes wrote, Kobes? Hold on, I want to pronounce this man's name right.
And for allowing me to introduce a fellow South Dakotan, Jonathan Kobes.
Kobes. It's only 11:45. Sorry, I'll go back now. Because those commercial decisions are invisible to observers unless explained, they are not inherently expressive and do not implicate the First Amendment. Some people were not happy with this decision, including the ACLU, but more importantly for this video, a Boston City councilor named Kendra Lara. Councilor Lara decided to tweet her disappointment with the following statement. "Y'all are letting the Zionists shake you down. Phew." I'm sorry. What? She said that. Obviously, she got major backlash for this and ended up actually deleting the tweet after saying in another tweet that she wasn't going to delete it because she had already said it. But in a 5-part thread, which I guess she assumed served as an apology, she said the following. Alright, y'all, my mentions are in shambles, so just to be clear, I was responding to this ruling here, quote tweeting a statement about the court's ruling. I maintain my disappointment with the 8th Circuit Court's ruling and believe that conflating anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism will ultimately prevent us from being in true solidarity with both Jewish people and Palestinians. It was made clear to me that the use of the phrase shake them down reinforces anti-Semitic tropes about Jewish people. Although it was not my intention, the impact, especially in a moment when we're seeing alarming rates of violence against Jewish people, is the same, and I should have known better. I'm grateful for folks like Professor @Ben Siegel who called me in on this, and for the Jewish community in D6 who I get to keep learning from. This stuff is insidious, and I'm committed to weeding it out in myself and my community. Are you? I just have to share one of my favorite replies to this tweet. When someone tells you who they are, believe them. And remember, unsurprisingly, this is not the first time that City Councilor Lara has tweeted some questionable things relating to Jews. Very few people are talking about this, and it's a problem. You can't just say that and expect it all to be okay. I'm supposed to sit here and be okay that you didn't apologize for making a very clearly anti-Semitic statement. Enough. But what can we expect? I mean, really. Editor Elisa here. Just wanted to acknowledge that City Councilor Lara did in fact issue an apology the following day, and I believe that it is an apology since she used the words, "I am genuinely sorry," unlike the previous thread. Jewish organizations in Boston have gracefully accepted her apology, and I really appreciate them doing that for the sake of moving forward. All that being said, I still stand by this video. I am not planning on taking out what I said about her statement because I've yet to see that she really did not mean to say it. If you have a thought, take that thought, form it into words, type it out, and hit tweet. There's plenty of time there for you to stop and realize the consequences of what you're doing. You had those thoughts in your heart, and that is concerning. I truly hope that City Councilor Lara is taking this time to reflect on why she holds those feelings and why she felt it was okay to say that. And I really hope that this is the last time that anyone has to talk about a negative anti-Semitic tweet from Kendra Lara. Thanks for watching. I'm out.